ordinary meeting of 26th October open. Note full attendance of councillors and a full attendance of the executive team, therefore no apologies. And I believe Pastor Cox is joining us digitally for prayers in a moment. Good morning, Josh. It's Greg Christensen. Thank you for joining us for prayers. We greatly appreciate your ongoing support, and we are now in your hands.
Excellent. Well, good morning, Mayor and councillors and staff. I think it's pertinent, particularly after a long dry spell that we've had again, and being good to get a little bit of rain, for some to join with the psalmist in giving thanks. And so I want to read from Psalm 106. Praise the Lord. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever. Who can utter the mighty deeds of the Lord or declare all his praise? Blessed are they who observe justice, who do righteousness at all times. So let's just bow and give thanks to God for these things. Heavenly Father, we do give you thanks for the rain. We know that some places have received significant amounts, and there was some damage in some places, and we pray for the clean-up of trees and debris. We also know that some places didn't get that much, and so we pray that you'd be pleased to bring rain, additional rain that would come and nourish our land. We ask, Lord, that you would open the heavens and bring forth life-giving rain, that our land may be quenched and bring forth much growth and fill our tanks. Lord, we ask the Heavenly Father you would help us as people, Lord, to, as we read there in Psalm 106, to observe justice and do righteousness at all times. Lord, we pray for this General Council meeting today and ask, Lord, that you would give the councillors guidance in matters that pertain to the Scenic Rim. We commit them and the process of this meeting to you and pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Josh. Greatly appreciate, and again, you're always welcome to continue to listen in, but I do understand you have a busy day, and thank you, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you, councillors. We now continue to item 5, declaration of interest pertaining to matters before us today. Are there any such declarations, councillors?
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor, in 11.2 community grants, I have a declarable interest. I'm a member of the Harrisville Lions Club. I'm not on the executive, but I just declare that for completeness.
Thank you, Councillor. And just for clarity, you will seek out the guidance of the meeting?
I will, and I will leave the meeting. I think it's correct, leave the meeting while the rest of the councillors discuss that.
Thank you, Councillor McGuinness. Then we should deal with that matter now, that clarification now, if you would. Thank you. Just for the clarity of the gallery, there isn't a requirement for a member to leave whilst discussions about declarables are held. However, it's a practice that we generally follow. So, councillors, any comment regarding the nature of the declaration? Councillor Enright.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be happy to move that Councillor McGuinness remains in the room for discussion of 11.2, as he is a member only of one of the organisations that are recipients of the award.
Thank you. I have a second.
I'm happy to second that.
Seconded, Councillor Swanborough. Any further discussion? Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Can we please retrieve the good councillor? Thank you, councillor. The chamber has agreed that you should stay in for the discussion of that matter. Reminder also, councillors, that we do have a requirement for a new update to our registers of interest. We have a 30-day window from the 12th of October to do so in the new format. Now, there were no announcements before the meeting today. Someone aware of, CEO? No deputations. So we move to item 9, minutes of the previous meeting for confirmation. And sorry, Councillor Swanborough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, yes, I'd just like to get clarification of a recommendation in the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 12th of October, item 11.4. I think it's page 32 of the actual minutes. Mr. Mayor, this is in relation to the amended conditions of the approval for the Coles application on Tambourine Mountain. My question to the General Manager, to the
sorry, Councillor, can we just be sure which page we're on?
Yeah, sure.
32 was the proposed conditions, not the final version. So can we just be clear that we're talking about the right part of the report? Page 30, so page 33 contains the discussion about amendments to the recommendation, and page 34 following of the report deals with the final described conditions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The first recommendation there is that 2 plans be adopted, but it also says except insofar as it is modified by the conditions of the approval. And it also says they identify the table below and accompanying documentation. So my question is, when you move down through that to the next page where it talks about referral agency conditions, it says correspondence dated the 13th of May 2020 from the Department of State Development, Manufacturing, Infrastructure and Planning is to be attached to the decision notice in accordance with section 56(1)(b)(1) of the Planning Act 2016. Now, I believe the intent of the modifications or the amendments to the recommendation proposed by Councillor Enright are adequately and properly defined and annotated on the plan in the minutes, which is good, but there could be some ambiguity, I suppose, by item number 3, referral agency conditions, because the map associated with the SARA approval indicates that the western driveway is approved by the development. And I was just wondering if the planning manager could actually clarify how this would occur. Sorry, Councillor McConnell.
Just before we, I'm happy for the planning manager to talk, but the decision of the meeting was quite specific about which driveway could be used, and the clarification from the planning manager would be welcome. We provided that clarity as per the recommendations and discussion of the day about which driveway could be used, which I believe becomes the precedent, the final outcome for the matter. But planning manager, can you add any clarification, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the state conditions from SARA, we're not in a position to be able to amend those. Whilst there probably may be some confusion on the surface of it, it's quite clear that Council's intention was that the driveway to the east is the only access to be used for the development. Whilst the SARA conditions relate to the standard of driveways, it doesn't give legal access from the point of view for use of the development. So I believe that the intention of Council for the use of the eastern driveway for the development is supported in the recommendations and the decision of Council.
Yep. So I think, sorry, we just, thank you, planning manager. That was exactly as per my understanding from the decision of the day, that we contemplated all of those matters, and at the background request in the room for clarity for those not in the room, at page 36 of the minutes of the previous meeting, there is a map which identifies those two corridors, and specifically in the context of that map, quite clearly the eastern, and as you're looking at the page, if for those not, depending on where you're oriented, looking at the page, on the right-hand side of the page is the corridor that council has specified to be used as part of the approval that the matter that we discussed. So there is no confusion in that matter. Understand that we can't rewrite a SARA. Basically, we can't rewrite a SARA approval, and we don't have the right to not attach it effectively to the matter, but we have prescribed a different outcome effectively as to the location. Does that answer your question, Councillor Swanborough?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it was page 47 of the report that showed the SARA plan, which was a subject of the confusion, but I'm happy with the explanation given by the planning manager. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so councillors, we now have the confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting. Through that clarification, I seek a mover. Councillor Chalk, seconded. Councillor Enright, wishing anything to say? Anyone wishing to speak further to the matter? Not, we put the motion to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 10. There are no matters before the meeting today with regard to business arising. So we move to the consideration of the business today's meeting, item 11, and firstly, item 11.1, commencing page 6 of the agenda, councillors.
Thank you.
We're in your hands.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Today we're seeking endorsement of the adopted infrastructure charges resolution, and I'll ask the Manager of Planning if he would just like to work you through the report.
Thank you, Deborah. Each year the infrastructure charges are amended at a state level, and we do a subsequent amendment to our adopted infrastructure charges resolution to keep pace with that. Effectively, the charges are adjusted by CPI in relation to the Roads and Bridges Index. The other change we've incorporated here is in relation to community and not-for-profit groups. Last year, when we adopted this charge resolution, we provided a 100% waiver for community groups where they were located on council land or council controlled land. So that provided for the soccer clubs and the like that they wouldn't pay any infrastructure charges for any work they do on council land. The proposal here is to extend that slightly to allow for exemptions for other not-for-profits where they're located not on council land. And the proposal is to include community facilities such as community halls, show societies, community cemeteries, emergency services and historical societies. So these not-for-profit groups often operate on their own land or land leased or secured directly from the state government that council is not in control of. So I think council is reasonably comfortable that we wouldn't want to be charging these people infrastructure charges because the services they provide are exclusively for community purposes. There is a condition in there though that it only relates to their community service operations. So say for example a show society was to put in a caravan park as a business operation, that would not be included, but all their community facilities would be. Part 11.3 refers to other community organisations that don't fall into the first two categories and effectively provides that they will be considered on a case-by-case basis. With not-for-profit groups, they vary in size and commerciality quite dramatically, so it's very difficult to write a policy around that. So we're looking to develop a case-by-case assessment of those for council consideration outside of the adopted infrastructure charge resolution.
Thank you. Councillors, any need to clarify that matter? Councillor McGuinness.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to ask the manager, and I'm not sure if it applies, but community organisations who own their own land, you mentioned state government land, but does that, I just didn't notice anything here that when they actually, if they own their own land.
If they own their own land, they would be entitled in here as well. The only situation arises where they're on privately owned land, that becomes a bit complicated in infrastructure charges, simply because the assets are being provided on property land, on private land, so they wouldn't necessarily get an automatic exemption from infrastructure charges.
Councillor Swanborough.
Hey, my question is, in relation to sporting clubs that might be on their own land, would they be in that category of they would have to be considered separately or case-by-case basis as well?
That is correct. To date, most not-for-profits in that category are generally on council land or state reserves. There would be very few in that category, but if there were, they would come through on a case-by-case basis and be considered appropriately, yes.
Yes, so I was thinking of, the various golf clubs and things like that around the area that may be on their own land.
We're looking to draft policy considerations for council to help guide council in assessing those applications, and again that would look at what their the goal of the organisation is, their membership, any commerciality involved in that. That would all be considered. So that's why we do need to have a case-by-case basis, because these operations are very different, and to date we found it very hard to develop a policy which would be a catch-all.
Thank you. Any Councillor Enright?
Thank you, Mayor. We have, as a part of our regional prosperity strategy, a infrastructure charges deferral arrangement, and I just wanted to confirm that this sits outside this current policy.
So the infrastructure charge resolution provides for the generation of the infrastructure charge notice. So it sets the dollar amount. The council policy for deferral is the subsequent process. So once issued, under that deferral policy, an applicant can come back to council and say they want to defer their payments over a 3-year period, and that is done through an infrastructure agreement after this is applied, yes.
Thank you. Councillors, any other points to clarify on this matter? Thank you, Planning Manager. Councillors, I'll ask the CEO or the GM actually to read the recommendation for us.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation is that Council adopt the attached adopted infrastructure charges resolution version number 12 to take effect on the commencement date of 31 October 2020.
Okay. Councillors, we have a recommendation. I seek a mover. Councillor Enright, seconded Councillor McGuinness. Wishing to speak further, Councillor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone seeking leave to speak additionally? Not, we put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Planning Manager. We move to item 11.2.
Thank you, Mayor. Today we present the first round of the 2020-2021 Community Grants Program and a number of recommendations for how those grants are proposed to be distributed to various organisations from across the region. As a reminder, we have streamlined the community grants program and has 2 streams now, a minor community grants and a major community grants. I have officers here, Mayor, if there are questions required. It's a reasonably straightforward report. There's a number of wonderful organisations that have applied to the grants this year, and We were very much oversubscribed by the volume of grants applied for, and there has been a very rigorous assessment process that has happened in our new grants management system known as Smarty Grants in order to, by merit, award these minor and major grants.
Thank you. Councillors, you've had a quite comprehensive report available to consider in the agenda. Any additional questions? Any additional comments to clarify? If not, we move to the recommendation, and GM, I'll ask you to introduce the recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. That Council approve the allocation of minor and major grants under the Community Grants Program 2020 to 2021, Round 1, for the total of $202,461.31, as outlined in the two tables below. And 2, that Council approve retrospectively the allocation of 2 minor community grants under the Community Grants Program 2020 to 2021, Round 1, for a total of $4,034, which have been awarded due to the imminent timing of those events and activities. 3, that Council acknowledge the relevant feedback and advice will be provided to the unsuccessful grant applicants to continue building capacity of the community sector.
Thank you for that, councillors. We have a recommendation in 3 parts before us. Seek a mover. Councillor Enright, seconded Councillor West. Wishing to speak further, Councillor? Councillor Enright.
Thank you, Mayor. If there is, Council does a lot of great things for our community, and I think this is another example of how we support our community to build a stronger community. I would like to pay particular note to the efforts of our community development staff who have gone through an exhaustive process to get this to a level to fit with the funding that we have available. And it's interesting that it is significantly oversubscribed. I think that tells us a couple of things, that our community are looking for support, but they also have grasped this new process through the Smarty Grants process. And I think by providing over $200,000 toward our community groups throughout the region goes a long way to enable the efforts of our community groups to multiply their efforts to build a stronger community. So I commend this process.
Thank you, Councillor Enright. Anyone wishing to speak against? If not, anyone seeking to speak additionally? Not Councillor West.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to mention how very positive it is to have the major and the minor grants now, because often in the past we've found that for some of the bigger projects, the community groups don't get as much money as what they need, and then there's a bit of a shortfall. So this looks very positive. This new, and also the Smarty Grants have gone very well.
Thank you, Councillor. We put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Then the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for joining us for that matter. Now we move to item 11.3.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 11.3 is the Regional Skills Investment Strategy Project update, and I'm providing that today as the coordinator, unfortunately, has a family matter to deal with, is unable to be with us. As Council would be aware, we receive funding from the Queensland Government Department of Employment, Small Business and Training for the Regional Skills Investment Strategy Project. It's 2 years of funding and we're in our second year. The funding will be completed by June 2020. It includes the employment of a coordinator charged specifically with coordinating the project and helping businesses find, train and upskill staff. Council would also be aware that there are 3 key industries that were approved underneath the partnership agreement with the state government for the coordinator to focus on, and they include agriculture and agribusiness, health and allied services, and tourism and hospitality. Council was also aware that recently we appointed councillors to the Regional Skills Investment Strategy Reference Group, and they've joined a wonderful group of local businesses and our state government and federal government partners in the journey of the Regional Skills Investment Strategy project. Councillors, this is probably the first time that we've reported so fully on all of the meetings that have been held and the discussions and the achievements that have been achieved to date through the hard work of the coordinator and as part of the regional prosperity team. And I commend this report to you.
Thank you. Councillors, there's quite substantial material. Questions to the report? Councillor McConnell?
Yeah, just a couple. To the GM, is it possible to get a further breakdown of those figures in relation to what sections, the farming, hospitality, or the allied health and allied services that those positions were found in?
Certainly, Councillor. The employer engagements across tourism and hospitality, out of the figure that's quoted in the report, there have been 277. Agriculture, there's been 35, and health and allied service, there's been 26. And I think probably the tourism and hospitality one is quite obvious because of the times we find ourselves as one of the hardest hit industries across the region.
Oh, that's good. What areas across the region have benefited from this?
We've seen in those employer engagements in Boona alone 70 engagements, in Beaudesert 101, and the Tamborine Mountain Canungra areas 167.
Thank you. How are they attributed to the strategy's actions? How did the strategy result in those employment?
Primarily what we have found, and I think it's the reason why the state government has funded these types of projects, there's in fact 18 of these projects running across the state, of which we're very fortunate to be one. I think the whole premise of this was to uncover hidden opportunities for employers and for their staff, and to link and advise businesses on how to, and community and members of our community seeking employment, how to actually access vocational education training through the VET investment plan that the state government runs as a funded program through DESBIT, the department. And the funding supports skills development and further education, which has resulted in businesses understanding what is available to them and then have direct access to any funding support that might support those VET outcomes.
Thank you. So how is the skills investment strategy assisting with the training outcomes? What exactly is the officer doing to assist with this?
So there's a number of pilot projects that the officer has been working with across the different areas, and in particular looking at some pilot projects to enable those sectors to access that training. For example, Cedar Creek Lodges, which is based in Tamborine Mountain, has a hospitality program that it's a pilot that is enabling them to find the level of skilled workforce to attract to that business. There's also a pilot program working with the turf industry, which has been developed to train new workers within that sector. And that also, again, where they've had trouble finding the skills appropriate to the work that they have on offer. And in the health sector, the office has been working with BoCare, who has been assisting them to submit Skilling Queensland for Work, which is a program with the state government. And the outcome will be that there's training and employment for new workers in the aged care sector. The other thing I've noted through having the reference group is that the sectors are cross-fertilising. So we've seen health and allied services linking with the training, tourism and hospitality, and some of them sharing wait staff and chefs and cooks, where they work in the different sectors in the different timeframes. So people who are perhaps underemployed gaining further employment.
Thank you. Just following on from that, is the skills investment strategy officer just another acting like just another employment agency, or are they looking at the short and long-term skilling opportunities to fill local positions?
So fundamentally, the role is a facilitator, and I believe, a coordinator. So it's linking business and industry, like-minded sectors together creating those cluster of opportunities. It's linking business to the government and to the programs that are available to them and not necessarily known to them. But fundamentally, it's also directing support through to employment agencies and working with employment agencies to identify potential workers, and then networking that and linking it back to employers. And I guess the other link for us is when we established the Scenic Rim Jobs portal, which enables us now to funnel all local vacancies for both business and for job seekers as a one-stop shop for them to find employment and training opportunities, essentially.
Thank you. Given the reports in the news over the last couple of months in relation to on-farm harvesting, what is the officer doing to assist filling those vacancies for on-farm demand during this harvesting period?
We've been working quite closely with relevant agencies that are able to assist, and we're specifically working with state and federal government agencies that can provide that level of support. There's an example where the officer has supported one local business looking for farm workers, who is now in the phase of recruiting additional 30 workers as a result of the links to the Regional Skills Investment Strategy project. And in addition to this, our officer has been working with the Federal Department of Employment, Skills and Education and DESBT, the Small Business and Training Department, to support bulk recruitment of farm workers as well. We're also acutely aware that there are some fundamental issues then with attracting the workers and worker accommodation. And I have both our economic development staff working with our planning teams on innovative solutions to identify farm worker accommodation and repurposing other sites across the region that could accommodate.
Thank you. Just moving on to another area, are there plans currently being developed to assist with the possible upcoming demand with the inland rail worker requirements?
Yes, we've been working both with state and federal government on this, and Department of State Development has an ability for us to assist businesses with tendering to access business. But in addition, we've also had our economic development officers having ongoing meetings with Inland Rail and the project team through the company ARTC, including meetings where we're looking at the social impacts, and we've been looking at workshops where we can advocate for the delivery of both contracts locally but employment of locals. There's also opportunity for us to do those local content tendering workshops, and we've been negotiating for some of that for some time, and we're nearing a point where they need to start commencing. And there is a direct link then to the supply chain capability program, which is essential, that we have applied for recent funding for under the local economic recovery program, looking at a value add to businesses in the region to capitalise on the Inland Rail project.
Thank you. Just like one last one, and that it's in regards to the Boat Desert Enterprise one that we've got at the moment. Is the investment skills officer investigating possible tenants and looking at the availability of local skilled labour?
Not directly the Regional Skills Investment Officer, but the Regional Prosperity team, the Economic Development team, is working very closely with our colleagues in the Asset and Environmental Sustainability team, who are developing the new Boat Desert Enterprise Precinct. We are in regular meetings as the teams working across the council, but are also working and canvassing local businesses as to their needs. And we've had a lot of indication from local businesses that they're looking to expand. So the project is not just around investment attraction to the new sites, but also retention of businesses and expansion of local businesses. From that, we are aware of the types of skills of the businesses that will be attracted into the Boat Desert Enterprise Precinct, and that's when the Regional Skills Investment Coordinator role would kick in, mapping those roles and working with local agencies to try and attract the appropriate skills. It aligns with the Regional Prosperity Strategy and the goal of that strategy to create local jobs for local residents. And we will continue to work as we now move into the phase of selling the land Council has also appointed Ray White Special Projects to market and sell the precinct. And so the Regional Prosperity team, the Regional Skills Investment team and the Assets and Environmental Sustainability team are all working on a coordinated approach in that delivery.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions, Councillor Swanborough?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I wonder if the General Manager could advise just on how the jobs portal is going that we set up to try and attract local employment.
Off the top of my head, Councillor, I don't have the current figures of jobs advertised, but that's a simple thing. If you click on the link, you can, and there's a link in there that shows the jobs. It'll tell you the number of jobs. I think the last time I looked was maybe early last week. It was 223 jobs from memory, and we have an increasing number of members subscribing. So for businesses to utilise the job portal, they become a member of the job portal, and for job seekers to access the jobs available, they become a member of the job portal. And last report I had from staff was those numbers were steadily increasing, but we will bring, I'll take that on notice and we'll provide the exact figures to you.
Thank you. Councillor Enright?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to the GM. The funding of $350,000 was provided by the state government, a contribution of $16,000 from council, and so a total of $366,000 over the 2 years. There's been a employment outcome of 139 jobs in the first year, which represents, I think, a very acceptable figure per job of $1,316 per job. Out of these 139 jobs, have these been sustained?
I'm not aware that any of those have had massive losses because the jobs, the demand that's been growing. So I'm not aware that they've been put on for short periods of time. My understanding is most of those jobs have sustained since they were established, since those people were attracted to those roles. And to the point of the funding, it is only for 2 years, and Mayor very kindly crafted a letter and wrote to Minister Fenton requesting for additional funding, or for this particular regional skills investment strategy funding to continue beyond the 2 years. And we received a very polite acknowledgement of the outcomes that we've achieved for the region. However, no solid indication of whether or not future funding of this program would be made available, and that's understandable given that we're currently in an election phase. We're hopeful that this will not be overlooked, as the importance that it is providing to regions of our scale is very valuable. And officers have also tried to seek funding through some of the recent local economic development recovery funding or bushfire recovery funding to try and seek additional funding to keep this program delivering those jobs outcomes for the regions.
Thank you.
Councillors, I just observe I've lost count of the conversations with businesses who have had great success in working with the program, and individuals who've landed in employment locally where they were previously were travelling out of the region for part-time employment, and now they have really good employment close to home, which is certainly something we continue to seek to achieve. I also note that there are still a lot of our business community who haven't connected with the program, and sometimes it's at their moment of need where we're best able to get them connected, and there have been some great results in the last 6 weeks, in fact, coming out of the back of prior events to support businesses with expanding staff with the opportunities that are coming our way. So it's certainly a very positive frame of reference, and certainly when a new government is formed, I believe it will be worth continuing to invest in conversations to seek extensions of this program for the value it's contributing. Any other questions or comments before we have a recommendation? Otherwise, councillors, in 5 parts, GM.
Thank you, Mayor. Today, councillors, I'm recommending that Council acknowledge the Q3 and Q4 activities, initiatives and outcomes delivered as part of the Regional Skills Investment Strategy project, and that Council endorse the Regional Skills Investment Strategy reference group minutes of the meetings held in 2019-2020, February, April, May and June, and that Council endorse the updated Regional Skills Investment Strategy reference group terms of reference, which now includes the appointment of 2 councillors and 1 proxy councillor to the group, and that 4, Council acknowledge the Queensland Government's Department of Employment, Small Business and Training 2-year funding contribution of the Regional Skills Investment Strategy ending June 2021, and that 5, Council extend its thanks to the members of the businesses and industry and community organisations who actively participate in the Scenic Rim Regional Skills Investment Strategy reference group.
Thank you. Seek a mover to the recommendation. Councillor McConnell, seconded Councillor McInnes. Wish to speak further, Councillor? No. Anyone seeking leave to speak against? Anyone else seeking leave to speak at all? If not, we put the motion as per the 5 parts. Those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and again, congratulations to please GM pass on to particularly to the officer for his excellent endeavours. We move to asset environmental sustainability, item 11.4. GM, please introduce the matter.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors, executive and those listening in online. Item 11.4 is pertaining to proposal to limit heavy vehicle access or use of Bromilton House Road. Within the report, there is actually attachments which provide some update on a recently carried out assessment of community feedback with regard to the proposal. Now, the proposal in its detail is that we look at limiting through heavy vehicle access. There was some confusion with which you may pick out within some of the information provided by mainly some of the business stakeholders. Any business along Bromilton House Road that requires heavy vehicles as part of their business, that this proposal does not limit that access. It's more around controlling through vehicle access. It is council's officer's view that a more appropriate route for heavy vehicles is via Beaudesert Boona Road and the newly constructed bypass being the Mount Lindsay Highway, rather than travelling via Bromilton House Road. There was 12 businesses provided feedback and 11 community members did also. As you'll see within the recommendation, it is now proposed that actually install signage, which is regulatory signage that will make it a traffic offence to actually as a through travelling heavy vehicle, and a heavy vehicle is generally any vehicle over 4 tonne.
Thank you, GM. Councillors, there's obviously been some long background to this in our conversation as well as in the report. Any questions to clarify to the report? Councillor Enright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question that probably comes down to interpretation of what is a heavy vehicle. And my question is probably in relation to a four-wheel drive towing a caravan. I note that the recommendation is for gross combined mass over 4.5 tonne. Would this four-wheel drive and caravan be exempt of this ruling?
As a through vehicle, I would have to seek further advice on that matter. My immediate response would be if the caravan and the vehicle was over 4 tonne, it would be highly likely that it would not be accepted on this road as a bypass vehicle. However, I will certainly seek further advice on that.
Councillor Swanborough.
Just a question in relation to removal trucks, for instance, who might be using the road to move a resident who lives on the road to another place. Is there some type of exemption for those people?
that would be considered a non-through vehicle and would be part of service vehicle for that region. So removal van or any vehicle that is actually undertaking some level of business with regard to access for any residency or business along that road would not be covered or tied up in not being able to access that road.
Councillors, any other questions? Any comments? Councillor Enright?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to commend the council officers who've been involved in this really thorough process and consultation with residents and businesses. Many of you might know it's just gone 3 years since the Beaudesert bypass was opened. How time flies. And it was the hope that this was going to provide a lot of comfort to the residents of Bromelton House Road when the heavy vehicles will be able to use this state-controlled road. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for some. There was many businesses that did use that state-controlled road where these larger trucks really should be. And I'm grateful to those businesses who did recognise the impact on the residences. I would like to recognise the patience and the contribution of the many residents who have been severely impacted by the noise of these heavy vehicles and the risks to their safety while travelling on this road. And if I could perhaps just provide you a little bit of an insight as some of the impacts that have been felt by the residents of Bromelton House Road. The empty aluminium tippers that run through to the quarries and locations in the Bromelton Industrial Estate at 3:45 a.m. of a morning, 6 days a week. And this is something that one of the residents have been relaying to me for years, that he hears these trucks rip through there and wake them up of a morning. And also cars being forced off the road by speeding trucks and residents being fearful of slowing to turn into their own driveways for the fear of the trucks that are looming down on them from behind. This proposal really addresses many issues. It minimises the deterioration of council's roads by directing heavy vehicles onto the state-controlled roads where they should be. It reduces the impact on the amenity of the residents from heavy vehicles. It improves the safety for residents entering their properties and for other road users on this road. And finally, I would encourage all councillors to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor, we're almost to that place. You may have spoken a bit prematurely. I just remind that we have a process when once we've got a motion that we can speak in favour of a motion. Otherwise, we're providing clarification to the matters. So just note that for future reference, please, councillor. We have a recommendation that I'll ask if there's no other comments, I'll ask the GM to read for us in two parts.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation is that Council note the feedback received during the consultation period from the community and stakeholders on the proposal to limiting of access to Bromelton House Road via the installation of regulatory signage, no trucks, service vehicles accepted, on Bromelton House Road, and that Council endorse the limiting of access to Bromelton House Road via the installation of regulatory signage, no trucks, service vehicles accepted, on Bromelton House Road.
Thank you. I seek a mover to the motion. Councillor Enright, seconded Councillor Swamborough. Wishing to speak any further, Councillor?
Not too much more, just that I would encourage councillors to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. We've got to maintain that fine line. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone seeking leave to speak additionally? Councillor Swamborough.
Yes, Mr Mayor. It is timely that this should happen. The bypass has been in place for 3 years. As Councillor Enright has said, Consideration of this has been on the agenda for over 20 years as far as I'm concerned. It's been a very big issue. Councils in the past have considered, the damage to that road caused by trucks and considered local laws in relation to extraordinary traffic being charged for trucks using this road. It is timely that this should occur, and I fully support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. I put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's carried unanimously. Move to item 11.5. Again, GM, would you please introduce the matter?
Thank you, Mayor. 11.5 deals with the matter of a proposal to remove an old clubhouse on Middle Park, Tamborine. I actually have Manager Scott Osmond here today to talk us through the item.
Thank you, GM. Good morning, Mayor and councillors and executive. Obviously, I'm here today and I take the report as read for the removal of the old clubhouse at Middle Park at Tamborine. The Tamborine Pony Club has a lease over the facility at Middle Park until 2027. They've put a proposal to council, a long-term proposal around the future of those grounds, which includes the development of a multi-use arena. As stage one, to start getting the ball rolling to give them the adequate space that they require. There is an old clubhouse there that is at end of life. Council is not maintaining that clubhouse now, so it is actually closed and boarded off. The proposal put forward today is for council to go out with an expression of interest to relevant parties who may be interested in purchasing the old clubhouse and taking that off site and renovating or doing as they see fit with that building. Any funds that are received by council will fund the process towards the EOI, and then any excessive funds on top of that will be contributed to the Pony Club for the make good of the site. The site will require some estimated restoration works in the vicinity of $10,000, which will be for obviously the removal of any underground power, septic tanks, any concrete removal, the stumps, and then obviously just reseeding and returfing that area around where the clubhouse is now. So so basically the proposal is we go for an EOI, we go out for interested parties, any funds that are received through that or any revenue that's received through that EOI process will be then contributed back to the Pony Club. Any shortfall in funding for the make good of the works, the Pony Club has expressed that they will be going and getting some grant funding, and they will be contributing any shortfall that's required for the restoration of the site. If the proposal's not, if it ends up that it's costing council money, because this is an unbudgeted project for this year, if it's not cost neutral to council, the proposal is to postpone the project until next year, and we will put it forward for a budget consideration for 21-22.
Thank you for that introduction. Questions, councillors? Councillor McConnell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick one. What's the history of that building? How did it come to be on that land?
I would have to take that question on notice. Sorry, sir.
So did council assist in that building being put there?
From my understanding, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why we're assisting with the removal.
Yeah, it's a council asset. It's on council's asset register.
Good.
So it's been there well before the Pony Club was even in existence on Middle Park, from my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a question in relation to the expression of interest. Is that for the sale of the clubhouse, and if someone buys it, they then have to remove it? Is that the case?
Yes, that's the case, yes. So they purchase off council, and then they'll be required to undertake the removal of the building, the relocation.
I'm just trying to...
Councillor, as per the wording on the page, it's in
I asked
the
the
report.
question for the benefit of...
Sorry, Councillor, yes, but the report's been public. I just was making sure, drawing your attention to that clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question then perhaps to the General Manager of Sustainability is if the expression of interest is successful, the house is sold and someone else takes it away, where does that leave the Tambourine Pony Club receiving $16,000 for the removal of the old house. Is that the same house we're talking about, or is there a different one?
Sorry, councillor, I don't
comprehend.
There's one old clubhouse.
Yeah, I just
on site.
the detail's a little bit scant. It's just a one-liner in the previous ordinary meeting agenda. It says on page, that might need to be clarified, on page 18
of today's
agenda. It says that, I'm just going to skip up to see that it wasn't an
Is that
unsuccessful
grant funding?
project.
Is that a grant
Oh,
funding?
sorry, it's okay. It's unsuccessful grant funding, so it's not applicable. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't aware of that report on page 18, so I was a little bit confused there, sorry.
Yep. We were all confused for a moment. Any other questions, councillors? Any additional clarification? If not, I'll ask you to read the recommendation in 3 parts, please, Jim.
Just before I do, I believe it would be appropriate to update the 3rd recommendation item where it says EOI. It is probably better to have that as expression of interest. I just thought I'd make mention of that for those who at home who would have already read this report, that be noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I will now read the recommendation. Is that Council endorse the undertaking of an expression of interest for the purchase and removal of the old clubhouse located on Lot 195 on SP 173266, known as Middle Park, Tambourine, and that Council resolve to allocate excess revenue received from the sale of the old clubhouse to the Tambourine Pony Club to undertake site restoration works, and Council resolve, in the event that the expression of interest does not result in a minimum of a cost-neutral outcome for Council, the proposal for the removal be postponed and put forward as part of the 2021-2022 budget process.
Thank you, GM. Mover, Councillor McConnell, seconder, Councillor West. Wishing to speak further, Councillor?
Yeah, just thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this has been long-term coming with the Pony Club. They've done exceptionally well building their land, the assets on there, maintaining them, and the event management that they've been able to bring forward has been exceptional. So I think a cost neutral to the Pony Club is the best way forward, and with the removal of this building, they can then move forward with their master plan for other assets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone seeking leave to speak further? Put the motion. Those in favour? That's also carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We move to item 11.6 and turn to the GM of Council Sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, morning councillors, executive and the audience listening in. 11.6 relates to the monthly financial report for September 2020. As per contained, I take the report as having been read, but as per normal, I'll just run through a couple of high-level summary just to go through. So as of end of September, effectively, we're through the first quarter of the financial year. It's indicated there that there is a net operating surplus of 1.9, meaning another spend of around 2.13 in operating and revenue being below budget by about 193,000. That 193, when it's fully analysed, mainly relates to the growth factor that, as part of our rates modelling for the financial year, that we haven't realised, and that's currently set at 1.5%. So all other modelling that was undertaken, it's very indicative of the accuracy of that modelling. Some of the operating expenditure items there are some below budgeted items, and this is a result of ongoing efficiencies and other things. There was a refund of 76,000 associated with the fringe benefit tax, which ultimately gives us a total of around 220,000 in savings in FBT associated expenditure now. Our workers' comp premium was actually down 88,000 compared to last year, which is a good result, reflective of our culture around workplace health and safety and our adherence to maintaining a safe working environment. And obviously, due to COVID and the likes, there's a reduction of about, or there's an underspend of about 71,000 in some stage normally for staff training and conference attendance. There's a positive note around the capital expenditure side of things. I guess now that the carry forward budget has been incorporated into this budget, you can see that we're ahead of our budgeted expenditure for capital. Also, that's whilst that's we're continuing to deliver our capital expenditure projects that we've indicated to the residents. That has impacted our cash at, there's a sort of a slight impact on our cash at bank, but at least that's they're budgeted for. It's just the staging associated with that capital expenditure. I will just go through now just some corrections and certainly opens the floor up to some questions. But page 7 of 8 of the report, noting the council expenditure from previous month, we've increased. There's been about another $1.2 million spent with Scenic Rim suppliers for that month. So we're maintaining that 26%, and that may seem a bit lower than the 5-year average, but when we normalise it, there was a great deal of flood damage expenditure over those last 5 years as well. That was able to be sourced within the Scenic Rim. So the normalised expenditure, it's maintaining a firm hold there around the 26%. I will note that the hardship applications, it doesn't seem there was actually in the application set, rather than 1, that was 9. And the only other change in the financial one was applications currently under review. From the previous month, there was 1, but there's actually 2 under review at the moment. And there's been 2 COVID applications sent, but nothing further out of that. So there's whilst the offer has been made there by council to assist where we can, generally it would appear that the I guess the region is able to maintain, but we're certainly going to keep a close eye on that once the other initiatives, mainly the federal government with the JobKeeper and things like that levels out, and see whether or not that has played an impact. Finally, just on the on that, in terms of our rates outstanding, which is at page 8 of 8 of that attachment, we can see there that from the current levy, there's 2.6 million outstanding as of end of September, and that's down 1.8 million from the previous month. So we can see that there was an increase. The second discount offering certainly played a role, and overall that represented about 81.3 in the total reduction in the including rates in prior year arrears. That 5.3 overall balance was reduced from about 7.7 million previous month. I'll leave the wrap up on there. And
thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Enright.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, GM, for that summary. My question is in relation to your last point there regarding the new initiative of our economic stimulus package with the second tier of discount for our rates in the second month. I note that it was 1.2 million that was paid in that time. Just wondering if there's any other learnings from that and whether that was well received or any other feedback that's relevant to that new initiative.
I guess if I'll make reference to page 3 of the that report, and that gives us a breakdown on the discounts and pension remissions. Yeah, we had basically a year-to-date budget of about $882,000 in discounts, but we've seen a greater take-up of that, resulting in additional $44,000 in what we originally anticipated that we may have received in offloading in normalised terms. So I guess as a learning, yeah, it certainly proved to be efficient for council by offering that, and it's minimal impacts on certainly our bottom line, but has given the opportunity for those that may have not been able to reach the July 1st discount date and still offer that 3% as a second offering.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor McGuinness?
On the same subject, Mayor, Ollie, when I look at the graph, that shows last year's, that's outstanding from last year, not what last year's graph looked like. I just wonder where we are in relation to that. Does that actually...
Councillor, you're talking on page...
outstanding rate debtors.
Page 109 of the overall report, or page 8? It's page 8 of the report. Yep. Thanks.
Yep. Page 8 of 8, yeah. So compared to last year, I agree, it's good to see that, and I think I believe it was a good initiative giving that second discount, but I just wondered where we track compared to last year.
We certainly had a higher amount outstanding as of last year, and you can see there's it's probably hard to read in that gap. The amounts are slightly lower than touching, but I can certainly what we try and provide in summary from previous years is just the level. So what you can see in that graph down below, it's indicating there's still about $1.7 million outstanding from previous year. Sorry, not the graph, the table. A little bit further down, and currently what we have now, we've got about 2.6 million outstanding. So there are your standardised sort of ratepayers that do have a payment arrangement. So we'll effectively see that 2.6 hopefully get down to the same vicinity of that 1.7. Now that $1.7 million is the full year with the two levies, and that 2.6 at the moment is showing just the first half levy. But that's certainly one to maintain, and given the commentary before about paying some keen interest with the January levy and what impacts the reduction in some of those other tiers of government initiatives plays on. But
I take that point, General Manager, but if you looked at last year's, no doubt there was carryover from the previous year too, isn't there? Yeah, so there's always some carryover. I just wondered whether overall this is actually, have we got our level down probably as a percentage really, because of what rates we sent out is the important part.
And that table does represent it splits up all the previous years as well. So we are the table down below that, it shows you the total overall, the current levy, the last financial year, and the 18-19 as well as prior years. And we received $1.8 million in that month, and that serviced 81.3% of the current levy, and the rest of that has been action against the prior year and historic sort of arrears. So we're continuing to monitor that and just seeing And that's on the back of obviously a suspension in any of our overdue rates recovery processes that we're currently experiencing. So there's a bit of
Okay, thank you. Other clarifications? Councillor McCollum?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to the GM, just on page 3 of 8 of the report, or page 104 of the agenda, operating expenditure, employee expenses, 961,000. Is that an underspend so far on employee expenses?
yes. So the column reads the year to date. That third column across is the year to date budget, which is basically 3/12 of the total budget.
Yep.
And the year to date, the fourth one is the actual. So there was a budget of 8.744 million and an actual showing of 7.7, and that's made up of some of those indications previously where employee expenses that includes the premiums for workers' comp, the FBT. And then the rest of it really is associated with the vacancies. That's.
Thank you. So it's just clarifying that's not all just because of vacancies.
No.
Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question to the GM. And happy for you to deflect it to another GM if it's appropriate. But I note in the executive summary that the black spot funding received of 491,000. My question is this funding for previously approved projects, or is this funding for recent applications that were submitted?
Happy to get General Manager Asset and Environment Sustainability.
Yes, the amount matches half of what is a recently approved funding application. So the reality of it is that we do get an advance payment on some of the grants and applications we put together, and others are paid, and then with the remainder paid on completion or as part payments along the project. So it is for a project that was approved, not that more recently. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Swanborough.
Yes, Mayor, a question is on page 107 with the capital expenditure budget. The annual original budget was $22.4 million, and presumably when we add the carryover, it goes from 22.4 million to $46.1 million, which is almost double the original, well, it's more than double the original budget. Probably most of that expenditure in there is in relation to works and structures and drainage and roads, and mostly the GM sustainability or assets and sustainability's portfolio. I wonder if he could comment on the challenges that he may have in trying to deliver this particular program in the before the end of next financial year.
They're many and varied, but I'll try and keep them to fairly high level. Weather is certainly one that would be a challenge. Some products, we are seeing some lead time on particularly if you were to take into account some of the vehicles we're purchasing at the moment. We are seeing quite considerable lead time on that. We're not seeing that with some of the more detailed projects. We have, say, Lake Mulgra project that we have. We're looking at some interesting technologies to deal with the treatment of water there. Thankfully, we believe we've got a locally, so within Australia, sourced product that can actually deliver on that. So we're hoping not to have lead times on issues like that. However, it is certainly providing some level of, well, let's just say on the risk profile, it's up there. Far as resourcing wise, we are well resourced to deliver We are supplementing our current workforce with other professionals to assist in the delivery of the program, because at the same time we are working through additional grant-funded projects through Works for Queensland and the like. So that is over and above what is our normal project management volume. So it is understandable that we'd have some short-term arrangements for those projects to be managed. Other risks are certainly unforeseen conflicts with other utilities or other items that may be unknown at this point in time. However, we've been systematically going through the process of getting a lot of pre-investigations done well in advance to limit that occurring. But from time to time, unfortunately, you'll get to site and what you believe to be a straight line of a particular utility, it may deviate and end up being an issue. But apart from that, I think the majority of it is covered as far as those things that I would see as issues. Also, that it is worth noting that within some of the grant funds that we receive, they are sometimes over an extended period of time of several years. We have the option of putting recognising the full project in a given year with the revenue in that given year, which we've done in the past. So the reality of it is, if it's over 2 years, there's actually a portion that would be or should be attributed to a carryover even at this early time of the year. So we do have 1 or 2 projects that may fit that category as well. So the other alternative is, and I'll look at Oliver as the accountant, but and I'm sure he can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we don't acknowledge it within our budget now, but we acknowledge it within our long-term financial forecast and through next year's budget process.
Just a follow-up question, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the money that's been carried forward, which represents projects from last year, what is the priority of those carryover projects? Are they completed as a matter of priority, seeing that they were last year's projects, or what is the actual scheduling of the uncompleted works from the previous year?
It's not limited to just that. So I'll go back a few steps. Some projects that actually are carryover projects may be matched with other stages. So it is always our intention to program carryover works, and look, to be honest, a number of them were continued forward into this financial year. There are and I'd like to think, the odd project that actually has other issues that we're still determining, whether that be ongoing stakeholder engagement that may take a little bit longer to finalise. But it's certainly the aim of the officers involved to actually program those works more in the first half of the year. However, given some of the timelines we have with some of the other projects that are through Works for Queensland and alike, we certainly then have to run a lens over the top of that as well. So it's not necessarily the case. We'd like to say it is, but it's not necessarily the case. And each project is analysed on its merits, as well as balancing resourcing as well. So it might be that we've got a number of footpath projects and a similar crew is utilised to undertake a drainage project. It may be also that through it may be that a project's associated with or aligned to a school or near a facility such as that, where there's a more appropriate time of the year to be undertaking works, which would be the Christmas period. So some of those carryover projects are deferred until a more appropriate time for delivery.
I think also, just a perspective on there's a number of major capital projects that were carried forward, nearly $10 million with the Bodos at Enterprise Park, so which is fairly straightforward. There was also a considerable the plant replacement budget. So in total, there's about 16 million of that 46 relates to those two programs. So it's about 35%.
Councillor McInnes.
Yes, Mayor, and the GMs might like to take it on notice, but I just wonder if there's a feel for what COVID has cost us in this first quarter and whether they expect that to continue. I know there's plenty of unknown questions on that, but just where they see the cost to council of recent times.
Yeah, and thanks for that question, Councillor McGuinness. Yeah, certainly at our September budget review we've got coming up, we are focusing in part around some of those continued COVID costs. We have continued to, obviously, with additional vehicles and everything else. So, and as part of the normal initiatives reporting, so we do have some expenditures and acknowledged savings as well. So that comprehensive report will be brought back periodically to the council. But there is a notion around some of those continued expenses and mainly additional vehicles and probably year to date that's an unbudgeted amount of about 300,000 to have those additional vehicles on hire. That whilst the bottom line is as it is at the moment, that's inclusive of that. Because
thank you. We look forward to that report. Just a further point of clarification, please, in terms of the capital report, further to the number of grant-funded projects that have had some delays and therefore are legitimately running through their 2-year period but have run over the year end, and they had funds provided in advance which have been carried forward as well as the ongoing works. My understanding also in that increase in the capital budget are all of the COVID-related funding programs that were unforeseen at budget time and have been put forward by both the state through the Works for Queensland, then the Unite and Recover, as well as by the federal government through the local roads and infrastructure program, which has substantially added to the capital program as well. And am I correct in that context that all of the state funded ones are required to be delivered external to council's workforce using local suppliers and creating local employment certainty?
You are correct in that statement. The reality of it is, in some instances, local suppliers may not necessarily have the skill set to deliver. However, we will certainly be going to local suppliers in the first instance. And to add to those comments, a number of those grants are to be delivered within this 12-month period. Oh, sorry, now it's only 9 months. However, we're working well towards that target of completion of those projects.
Thank you. Councillors, any other clarifications to the report? If not, GM, oh, sorry, Councillor McGuinness. No, let's go to the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that the financial reports, that the council endorse the monthly financial reports for September 2020.
Councillors, I seek a mover. Councillor McGuinness, seconder. Councillor McConnell, wishing to speak further, councillor? Anyone seeking leave to speak against? Anyone seeking leave to speak additionally? No, we put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We move to item 11.7. Again, GM, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 11.7 is the tabling of the 2019-2020 annual report, including the general purpose financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2020. At the start, I think it's worth noting the amount of work that's gone into to get these in a timely manner, certainly by the finance team and the comms team and all staff involved, very appreciative of that efforts to ensure that we're meeting our legislative compliance. It certainly is a good read highlighting the deliverables contained not only from a financial aspect a year, but our deliverables in terms of maintaining compliance and delivering on our operational plan deliverables. I guess there's a number. I take it that the report has been read, and there'll be a number of questions arising from it. But I guess some of the key aspects of having being able to present this today is one that we had sign off from the Queensland Audit Office on 30 September on an unmodified audit opinion, which is a really good result. There was 2 minor items in the administrative thing in their management response to council, which are very, very minor, and it's certainly pleasing to note that a lot of the bulk previous legacy outstanding items have now fallen off, and that we've amended and certainly rectified those issues. But to get that sign off in that agreeable time is certainly a pleasing aspect. We've touched on it briefly about the impacts of COVID, but to certainly incorporate the impacts of the COVID for those 4 months, 3 months from certainly March through till June, has been a challenge, if not shows the resilience and the flexibility of the organisation to be able to persevere and still maintain our what we set out to certainly budget and achieve. So yeah, well, the annual report is presented there for consideration.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor McConnell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the CEO, what do you consider the 3 key takeaways for council in the annual report?
Thank you, Councillor McConnell. I guess in a report that's 128 pages long, 3 key takeaways might be a challenge. I'm happy to speak for more than 3 if Mr. Mayor, if you'll indulge me in doing so. Thank you.
Give you that latitude.
Thank you. Look, I think it's a very proud moment every time we have a annual report that presents a period for any local government, and unfortunately, I guess a number of members of the community don't spend time to look through. It's not something that people rush to read the annual report, but these days with them being online, everyone's encouraged to have a look through. Certainly people will see a whole load of things which often they don't realise that local governments undertake. People think of the roads, rates and rubbish, but that left local government years and years ago. The vast numbers of activities that we do these days is well presented in the report, and I must thank Oliver, his team and other teams at council who've put this document together with vast amount of input from our communications area and others. I do think that the work of council couldn't be done without the employees of the organisation. It's been a difficult 12 months. Luckily, we're investing in ensuring that the organisation's effective and efficient and agile in its delivery of services. So, I'd certainly like to, right at the beginning there, Mr. Mayor, just thank all of our employees and the work that they do to enable us to deliver what we set out to achieve, and also certainly thanks to the Mayor and councillors for your support and guidance over that period. I think from a customer perspective, we had a sentiment survey during that 12-month period. It revealed a number of things, some of which we knew, some of which we wanted to hear. We have developed, as a result of that, a new customer charter and working on internal processes and strategies that enables us as an organisation to achieve that. We still have as our core the desire to have customers at the heart of things that we do, everything that we do. And I think the amount of contact that we have with members of the public and often the feedback we get shows that a lot of the initiatives that we're putting into place are delivering many positives. The customer centricity is certainly alive, and we're achieving more. We're making it a lot easier for businesses to do business with council and community members to work with council. I think, I mentioned about how tough the year was when you think of fires and droughts and COVID. The community stayed very safe through that period. Council employees have as well, and there's much to be proud of. As you're aware, Council won an award for its risk-based COVID response. The stimulus packages, we have reported against them in terms of benefits that we've seen around support for the community as a response to COVID. So I think that there were some very positive steps that were taken by Council. And at the end of the day, the strong governance, audit, risk and compliance responsibilities that we take very seriously and have very low thresholds around non-compliance or non-conformance is testament to the outcome that we have there and the work of the auditors and our audit and risk committee. I think we also need to recognise the support that we get through funding from other levels of government, Australian and Queensland, as appropriate. But if I was to probably look at some areas during the year, maybe I've got a few more than maybe the top three, but certainly the Scenic Rim Planning Scheme was something that was adopted in that period, 1920. For the first time, it consolidated councils' planning across the whole region, certainly aiming for consistency in approvals and making it a lot easier for people to understand what the standards are and officers in undertaking guidance and approvals from members of the public. That's very much a very positive thing that was many, many years in the planning stages. I think, the commitment that we make across the region to roads, bridges, footpaths and drainage and the like to help drive the region's economy is standout. And as we have heard, sometimes that can be challenged as we wait for matching grant funds, or during the drought period, it was hard to do a number of the road programs. We also delivered Queensland's largest arts conference and celebration with 2,800 visitors to the region based out at Coralban. Arts Ablaze, people might remember that or may have attended some of the celebration events, but that was fantastic to see visitors from all across Queensland and beyond during that period. Very strong Indigenous, very much, and it put Scenic Rim on the arts map, building on the work that a lot of our employees in that space currently do. The region also achieved national recognition through the Delicious Awards for the produce within the region. I mean, that was a standout achievement that all of us were very proud of, and the region should be very proud of as well in terms of the produce that's grown here and its acceptance across Queensland and elsewhere as some of the finest around. The richest place on earth in Australia was, the first stage of our destination marketing campaign, which was launched following the bushfires as a trigger for people, tourists and the like to return to our region, and the timing and the planning that went into that campaign, and then the timing around its launch was proved phenomenally successful. The Scenic Rim Farm Box was another, which was something forced out of the COVID period, the loss of the Harvest Festival and Eat Local Week and the like, working with regions producers. It's a much acclaimed program. I think some of the other things which continued through too, with Million Trees and protection and enhancement of the scenic rim waterways, those environmental programs, council's statement of intent that it developed was a very strong signal of this council's commitment to the environment. And probably lastly, just thinking through, we're in Boona here now, and the revitalisation of the Boona town centre area, the main street, the ongoing work that's underway here, making Boona a much more easy place to do business in terms of additional parking. I'm looking at it right now behind me, and improvements to the main street to make it a place that people certainly wish to return to and to undertake their shopping. They're probably some of the highlights there, Mayor. There's many more, but I couldn't just stick at 3. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question, and thank you, CEO, for the response. Any other? Councillor West.
Sorry, I have a question just to the GM. Given that we still do have a number of people up valleys who don't have very adequate internet coverage, are we still going to have a hard copy in our libraries and at our customer contact centres, given the COVID situation? Will they be able to pop in there and read them, read the annual report?
We can certainly consider, but I'll pass to General Manager, Council Regional Prosperity, who.
What I'd probably prefer to do, Councillor, is provide copies, because at the moment, as you understand, there's restricted usage in libraries, and so shared copies of documents are not being made available. So if there was anyone in particular who you felt needed a copy, I would much rather that we get the request and we could formally print them a copy and send it to them should they need that.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Enright.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to add to the CEO's comments about this document. I think it is a wonderful document that outlines so many amazing achievements over the last year under very challenging times. And I would encourage the members of the community to have a look at this document, because the Community Financial Report is a very good, easy to read section of the report, and also the many of the sections that follow that provide the accomplishments or achievements of many particular projects throughout the year. And it also importantly, it lists the items that are not yet achieved, and it provides relevant explanations. So I think it's an excellent document, provides a very good summary of what we've achieved through the year, and also provides a comprehensive financial summary which outlines the sound financial position that we are in through the efforts of many. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I would just add, I think I'd like to add a comment before we move forward with the recommendation. I would certainly note that the format is a vast improvement. The readability is greatly improved. There is still, given the challenges of this year, to be preparing the report under those adverse conditions has been an excellent effort particularly by the communication team in dragging that together and getting the input from across the board. And it certainly does, it sometimes makes you realise why occasionally you hear a creak and a groan around the organisation. There is a massive effort and workload that is achieved constantly, and sometimes it's good to pause and reflect on and celebrate those outcomes. We always hear more of the negative perceptions than the recognition of the exceptional efforts that are delivered, and it's great to see that recognised in the annual report in a consolidated way. That being noted, if there are no other clarifications or questions, I'll ask the GM to read the recommendation for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that number one, Council adopt the draft 2019-2020 Scenic Rim Regional Council Annual Report. 2, Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to make minor grammatical and formatting changes to the 2019-2020 Scenic Rim Regional Council Annual Report, if required, after its adoption by Council and prior to publishing the document for public access. And 3, Council note the general purpose financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2020.
Thank you. I seek a mover. Councillor Chalk, seconder. Councillor McConnell, wish to speak further, Councillor? Anyone seeking leave to speak against? Anyone wishing to seek leave to speak additionally? If not, we put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and again, congratulations, CEO. Please pass on to the team for all their efforts. We have one item of miscellaneous business. Councillor West.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a petition to present to the CEO this morning. It's actually addressed. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
I have a petition to present to the CEO this morning. It's actually addressed to our state member for Scenic Rim, John Krause, and to myself from Scenic Rim Regional Council, but was handed to me last week given that the state government are in caretaker mode. The petition is to remove the speed bump on Christie Street in Canungra. The installation, it reads, the installation of the raised pedestrian crossing on the main street of Canungra has been a failure, which has created congestion and pollution issues in brackets, air and noise. So I'd just like to move that this petition be accepted and a report come to an ordinary meeting in due course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Moved, seconded. Councillor Swanborough seconding. No discussion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That is carried unanimously. We have one item of confidential business.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Just another item of miscellaneous.
Sorry, councillor. I wasn't notified of any matter.
No. So, do you allow it or not?
Sorry, well, I haven't been notified of a matter. I don't know the nature of what you're raising, so I can't comment. Is it a...
That's just a question to the CEO. Question to the CEO.
Normally that would be a question on notice, councillor, so sorry. If you want to, if it was relating to a matter before the meeting, you could have asked it in that. Otherwise, you'll need to put it through a proper process, please, councillor. Thank you. Councillors, we do have one item of confidential business. I note the time. I would seek a motion to move into closed session, and then I'll explain for those in the gallery likely timing. Seek Councillor McConnell, seconded Councillor West. Any discussion? Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. For those in the gallery, given that it is almost 11:15, we will take a small morning tea break and discuss this matter and aim to ensure that we allow time for various matters. We will return at 11:30, ensuring we've allowed adequate time for the relevant discussion. Thank you for your patience, and we'll return shortly. Okay. Councillors, we have closed the closed meeting and voted to move back into ordinary meeting. And we have one item before us now to resume in ordinary. GM, could you please read the recommendation for this item, 13.1?
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation is that Council confirm it has budgeted its financial contribution towards the projects referenced as BOR R05 SCEN 0091 Tambourine Mountain Gallery Walk Pedestrian Boulevard and Amenity Improvements Project Business Case and BOR R05 SCEN 0035 Beaudesert Town Centre Revitalisation. And Council commit to delivery of projects referenced as BOR R05 SCEN 0091 Tambourine Mountain Gallery Walk Pedestrian Boulevard and Amenities Improvement Project Business Case and BOR R05 SCEN 0035 Beaudesert Town Centre Revitalisation, and Council acknowledges responsibility. And 3, Council acknowledges responsibility for any project funding shortfall if costs or other contributors change.
Councillors, I seek a mover. Councillor Enright, seconder. Councillor West, to speak any further? Anyone seeking leave to speak against? And seeking leave to speak? Can we put the motion? Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. That brings us to the close of the ordinary meeting today. For the benefit of the gallery, we are closing the meeting and we are going to pause for a moment just to allow separation.